Freedive Live, episode number 24. My name is Ted Hardy. I'm the founder of Immersion Freediving as well as freedivingsafety.com. If you haven't visited freedivingsafety.com, you definitely should. It's a free course that goes over the risks of the sport. You're going to learn the truth about blackouts, get into the fatality numbers, don't sugarcoat anything. There's going to be, you're going to learn how to tell if you're breathing in such a way that would increase your risk of having a blackout. You're going to learn how to tell if you're overweighted. What does a loss of motor control look like? What does a blackout look like? And what do you do if you see someone that has one, basically how to fix it, right? So the idea is it's a free course that anyone can access, and you can access that at freedivingsafety.com. If you haven't visited freedivingsafety.com yet, you definitely should. So that is my new mission, which is to teach more people about safe freediving than anyone on the planet. And that website is going to be the vehicle that's going to hopefully allow me to do that. So for those of you that are new to the show, the way the show works is I typically tell an entertaining or educational story from my career. I then pick one topic to discuss in depth, and then I answer your questions at the end of the show. So for tonight's show, I'm going to be sharing a story of a past student of mine who saved his son from a blackout after taking my course. We'll be talking in depth about blackouts and how, under most circumstances, you won't feel it coming. This is something that I definitely think there's a little bit of confusion. There's a lot of confusion with, or a lot of people that just don't want to deal with the truth. So I'm going to go through all of that. And then at the end, I will answer your questions. So for those that are there, do me a favor, please let me know if you've taken a freediving class before and where you're from. I'm just going to check on something really quick, and then I'm going to get started. The other thing as I'm doing this is also always I'll be answering your questions at the end. So if you have questions, let's go ahead and put those in the comments. That way I can deal with those at the end. For those of you that are new, one of my most popular online courses that I have, you can access it, which is free, and it's a free course on how to take a 20 to 30% bigger breath. Right? If you want to increase your bottom time, if you want to hold your breath longer, one of the simplest and effective ways to do that is just take down more fuel. Right? It's just like a car. Right? If you put 20 to 30% more gas in a car, it's gonna go 20 to 30% farther. If you put more fuel in the lungs, or more oxygen in the tank, you're going to be able to hold your breath longer and dive longer. So I have a free course that goes over exactly how to do that. It's the same exact step-by-step method that I teach my students that come to my program. And so at the end of the show, I'll put the links to all these courses, and you'll be able to access that. And again, it's free. It is my most popular course. It's annoying that it's more popular than the safety course, because the safety, learning how to not kill yourself, apparently isn't very exciting. Learning how to take a bigger breath and dive deeper and stay longer apparently is a lot more exciting. All right, so I had Freedive Live is kind of like the new version of the show. I used to have an old version of the show that I called TED Talks Freediving, and I used to do it on Instagram. And during, I guess it was last year, I used to do that. I had a past student call me up, Mac Mateos. So he took my course a long time ago, 7 years ago, I think, 7 years ago. It was a long time. He took the intermediate program. And he called me up and basically just said, Ted, I'm calling to let you know that I saved my son from a blackout spearfishing in the Bahamas, and if I hadn't taken your course, he would be dead. So basically what happened was they're out spearfishing, and his son was coming up from a dive and blacked out on the way up to the surface. It was actually pretty, it was kind of complicated because he had I know I'm trying to remember the details, it's been a while ago. He had a pole spear with a line attached to, with a reel attached to his weight belt. That's what he had. He had a line on his, he had a reel on his weight belt. And what happened was the fish was still underneath. So when his dad got to him and brought him up to the surface, the line was pulling him underwater. Now it wasn't that there was enough slack to get him to the surface, but then with the current, it kept kind of pulling him over. So he was having to fight, to stay above where the line was. There was the release was jammed. He couldn't easily get it off. But the idea was he knew what to do. He was able to keep his airway out of the water, do blow tap talk, and the guy was fine. His son was fine. So what was crazy is when he called me to tell me that, and then he said, "Now this one I hand the phone to my wife," and his wife said, "Thank you for teaching him how to save my son." And then I got to hand it off to like the wife of the student, and then it went around to all the family members. They said, "Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad." Now, what's crazy about that story is this guy took the course 7 years ago, and he would tell you, he was like, before I took this course, he goes, I just did it the way I always did it. Like we would jump off the boat, and this guy would go that way, and this guy would go that way, because that's the way everyone does it, and that's just the way we did it. And so he realized that had he done that, he would have never seen that his son was asking for help. He would have never been there, and it just would have been all over. So I give him a lot of credit because here's the thing. Here's a dirty little secret, right? Taking a freediving course does not make you safe. I mean, it doesn't, right? It doesn't make you safe, right? I have this conversation a lot of time when parents call and students call. Is if you take a freediving course and if you follow the procedures that you learned in that course, it's going to make whoever you are diving with safe. Because if anything happens to them, you know what to do. That's the way the whole course works, right? Is it teaches you what to do if something happens to them, right? But what the hell happens if something happens to you? Well, if they're not there every time, if they're not close enough to grab every time you come up and they don't know what to do, then, I mean, it's awesome that you took a freediving class and you can help them, but who the heck's going to take you, right? So the idea is him taking the class gave him some good knowledge, but if you don't implement the knowledge that you learn in a freediving course, which I think happens quite a lot, then all this information in your head does you no good. I mean, you could be the best blackout rescuer ever, but if when you hit the surface, or if your buddy makes a dive and then you see a fish and you're going to peel off and go shoot that fish, then what good does it do you that you know how to do a rescue, because you're not going to be there, right? So he took the course 7 years ago, implemented the procedures that we talked about in the program, and he stuck to them, right? I'd actually heard stories about him from other people that he was incredibly safety focused, and I love when I hear stories about people kicking people off boats, right? Because they're not following the rules. Like, they lay down the rules of, you're going to be diving one up, one down, someone's going to be watching at the surface, and if you don't do that, you're never allowed back on the boat again, which I think is awesome, because that is what, that kind of behavior is so much more powerful than myself and all the freediving instructors teaching courses, because, we're up here teaching courses and saying this is what you should do after you leave the course, but I can't control what you do after you leave my course. But when certainly here in Florida, or in the spearfishing community, when the cool people are saying you have to be diving in teams, or you have to be watching each other when you get the surface, then, and if not, then you don't get allowed on the boat, then that's awesome, because then the cool guys are dictating the rules, and so that's really cool. All right, so let's get into the next topic. So if you guys have questions, put those in the comments for me that I'll go over in the end. All right, just gonna check on something. All right, if any of you guys are listening that are interested in how to improve your breath hold, especially this course is excellent for people that are haven't taken a freediving class, right? So I've got a course called Breath Hold Secrets. And basically the deal is, if you've talked to anyone that's taken a freediving class, they all come back and say the same thing. I don't care if it's a PADI course, a NAUI course, a TDI course, a Apnea Academy, PFI. They all come back, oh my God, I can't believe how long I held my breath, right? They're all going to tell you they held their breath such a long time, right? Because every freediving instructor knows the following. The secret to holding your breath is not what you do while you hold your breath. In fact, if you do everything right, holding your breath is quite simple. You just shut your mouth. And that's it. And it's easy, right? Because the secret to breath holding is not what you do while you hold your breath, it's what you do before you hold your breath, right? So Breath Hold Secrets goes over all of that stuff, right? And it's going to put you on a simple, a plan to increase your breath hold or doing some exercises. But yeah, so I'll put the link up to that. That program is $39, right? And you get access to the Breath Hold Secrets. There's also an interview with Ashley Futrell, 3-time world record holder. She also just broke another U.S. freediving record just recently. But yeah, and I'll put a link to that at the end for those that are interested. All right, I see someone put a question up. I will answer the questions towards the end. All right, so let's talk about the kind of the main topic that I wanted to discuss. I've been a freediving instructor for 10 years. I've done, I get invited to do presentations at, at the expo, the Blue Wall Expo is a big freediving spearfishing expo down here. I get asked to go to, do safety presentations a lot of places, right? And if you follow me or know me, you know that I'm always running my mouth about safety, just like I'm doing right here, online through posts or videos or whatever. And so I get the message out to a lot of people. And what very common response to that message is something like this. Tad, man, I really appreciate all the stuff that you do to, promote safety and freediving safety and coming down here and giving the talk. It was awesome. I appreciate it. And my kids, absolutely, man, they're going to be like right on it. I'm going to make them watch each other. But Ted, right here it comes, right? Not me. But Ted, I don't push myself, right? I just come up before I have a blackout. I mean, I'm really in tune with my body, and I'm real conservative. I mean, those guys, those, the other guys, right? I mean, they're crazy, right? So they've got to be diving in teams. They dive like crazy people, but I don't, right? I'm not crazy. I just come up before I have a blackout. In fact, Ted, I have never had a problem before, so I know what I'm doing is safe. That's what anyone who espouses safety is going to run into, and it's a pretty solid argument, especially the last part of that argument. The last part of their argument is, I've never had a problem, therefore I'm safe. Okay, so a lot of stuff to unpack in that argument. Number one, I would tell you that just because you've never had a problem has no bearing on if you're safe, right? What determines you're safe is what happens when you have a problem. Right? Just because you've never had a problem, it just means you haven't had a problem, which is awesome. And I hope that continues for another 30 years, right? But that's not really the definition of safety. Safety is going to determine what happens if you've had a problem. Okay, so that's one of the things. The other thing they'll tell you is, well, I don't push myself and I'm in tune with my body, right? I love that one. I'm in tune with my body. Right? So all of this goes back to the fact that people think that whole argument relies on the fact that, well, I would know if something was wrong, right? I would know that a blackout was coming on, right? So first off, I'm going to show you in this episode that in most circumstances, that's not true, right? Especially when you're diving in the ocean. And it's more so in the ocean than anywhere else. But when you're coming up from a dive in the ocean, I'm going to tell you that if that dive were to result in a blackout, under most circumstances, you'd feel fine. You would feel fine. You would know that anything is wrong. Okay? Do you understand? I know you probably don't believe that yet, but trust me, I'm going to convince you of that in a little bit, right? But just humor me, right? So if you're coming up from a dive and it would result in a blackout and you would feel fine, you wouldn't feel anything was wrong. Do you see how not credible this argument of, well, I don't push myself. Why I know my limits. But I'm in tune with my body, right? But if you wouldn't know, then all that's just a bunch of bunk, right? It's just stuff that people say to make themselves feel better, right? So let's start getting into why people think that they would know. The other thing I always joke about is I say, all right, fine. Let's say that you are genetically superior to us regular human beings and you have some sort of advanced oxygen sensing device in your body that would tell you that you're about to black out, right? Because you think that you would know. I'm telling you wouldn't know, but fine. You know what? Maybe you specifically are genetically superior to all of us. Okay, so Mr. I can tell I'm about to black out person, please explain this. You're coming up from a 50-foot dive. At 20 feet, your little special device says you're about to black out. How does that help? I mean, it would be nice to know that you're about to go, I guess, would be nice, but it doesn't help. Right? The only thing that's going to help is a buddy at the surface that knows what to do, right? But you don't have a buddy at the surface because you said that you're in touch with your body. You're in touch with your body. You don't push yourself, so you don't need a buddy, right? So all I'm getting at is you wouldn't, under most circumstances, you wouldn't know. So let's address why people think that they would know that something's wrong, because it's totally reasonable to think that, right? I used to think that. What I'm telling you is not super intuitive, and I know you don't believe me yet, but let me address a little bit of the science behind it. So if you're listening to me, I can almost guarantee you've done this once. Probably a lot more than once. But at some point, you've gone, stopwatch, you hold your breath, and at some point you went, right? And you saw how long you could hold your breath. Right? If you're watching Freedive Live, I can almost guarantee you've done that before, right? Now, let's think about that breath hold. Now, if we were to, I obviously no sane person would do this, but this is something that you intuitively understand. But if I were to, so in class, I actually graph it out. So I draw a graph, right? And I show a graph of discomfort versus time. And it's going to be a straight linear line, right? And so all this means is, not surprisingly, the longer you hold your breath, the longer, the more discomfort it is, right? I mean, duh, Ted, of course that happens, right? The longer you hold your breath, the more discomfort you get. And it's a slow, steady increase, right? As you're holding your breath, right? It gets harder and harder, more uncomfortable, okay? Everyone is familiar with that concept. Even if you've never said it out loud or even, thought through it. I mean, you're like, okay, of course we understand that, Ted. So, the very big mistake is people assume that the same thing would happen when they're diving in the ocean, and they'd be dead wrong, right? It'd be wrong, okay? Because you won't feel it coming in the ocean, right? Now, you're going, okay, but Ted, you just said that when you hold your breath, it's a slow, steady increase. I said, yeah, when you hold your breath. When you hold your breath, you're sitting on the couch, or maybe you're face down in the pool, right? But the idea is we're not at depth. Right? So holding your breath on dry land, holding your breath in the pool, right, is different from a physiological standpoint than it is when we're diving to depth, right? Because when we're diving to depth, pressure gets involved, and that changes lots of things, right? And to be completely honest, the true really mechanisms of how this works is a little bit too complicated for this show. I would need a board and some other stuff. But here's what I want you to understand. When you're coming up from a dive at depth, there's a change in pressure. So one of the things that happens is the partial pressure of oxygen drops extremely rapidly the last 33 feet, right? In fact, the partial pressure of oxygen, which is basically considered the number that determines if you're going to black out or not, kind of oversimplifying it. But from 33 feet to the surface, that number drops in half, right? So very quickly, that partial pressure is going to drop, right? Very rapidly towards the end. Okay, this is why 90%, 99% of the issues happen that last 15 feet to the surface. In fact, that's kind of how that term shallow water blackout happened, or was coined, because most of the blackouts were happening really that part near the surface. Okay, so when you're coming up from diving the ocean, due to the rapid drop in partial pressure, you are not going to feel that. You're not going to feel it come on. There's not going to be a slow, steady symptom, right? Now, still probably don't believe that, even though I'm starting to give you some reasons. But don't worry, I'm going to show you some video that will help convince you. The other thing I'll tell you is this. I mean, we've had world record holders that have died training by themselves, right? If there's any a freediver that would know their limits and not push themselves, you would think it would be a world record freediver. Mandy Ray Crookshank, I used to work directly for Performance Freediving. She's I don't know how many, 13-time world record holder, a lot of world records. She's had several underwater blackouts, meaning she's coming up from a dive, right? And she's blacked out. And you talk to her, which I have, she will tell you that on almost every single one of those, she was coming up to the surface, right? She's got the tag, and she's like, woo, I'm going to break another world record, and she's super excited, and then boom, she wakes up in Kirk's arm, and Kirk's doing blow tap talk, and she's like, what the hell just happened? Right? That's a world record holder who will tell you that when she's coming up from dives where she had a blackout on, she didn't know that anything was wrong. I mean, now, to be fair, maybe you are more in tune with your body than a 13-time world record holder. I mean, that's certainly mathematically possible, but I'm going to tell you that this is not very likely, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some videos to help demonstrate that. So I've got 2 videos of an actual freediving blackout so that you can see how suddenly they occur. Other thing, for those, as I'm taking a little break here getting this, if you guys have questions, I will answer those at the end. So if you have questions, put those in the comments. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right. So this is at a freediving competition. You can see she comes up, gives the okay sign, says she's okay. Clear as day, she is not okay, right? She falls down, falls on her back, and blacks out. All right, so let's watch this again. She hits the surface. She hits the surface. Okay sign. Boom, right? So she takes a breath or two, okay sign, and then she's out, right? She has no idea that anything is wrong. Right? Now, from a safety standpoint, not a big fan of how safety was handled during that, because what happened is when she came up, there was a safety right next to her, very close to her. And then as soon as she took her mask off and said she was okay, the safety's like, sweet, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go grab a sandwich. And he just left the scene. Why? Because she looked him in the eye and said, I'm okay. And then he just left, right? Now, and then it wasn't, then she starts to go out, falls on her back. It's not to the camera guy. If you have the audio, you hear him go, hey, 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 hey. And then everyone turns around and, goes, and jumps on her, right? So definitely not how that should be handled, which is one of the reasons we have a rule we call the 30-second rule, which is you want to watch that person for no less than 30 seconds, because we understand, even though it's not intuitive, that most blackouts, in fact, look just like that. They hit the surface, they take a couple of breaths, they might even give you the okay sign, and then they go out. Not very intuitive, but factually, that's what they look like, right? So that safety was not, I guess, not aware of that. Seems like something a safety should be aware of. All right, so got another video. This is a video. So this video, I'm going to give us a little bit of setup of this video. So this is from a good friend of mine, Ren and Ashley. They run Evolve Freediving. They teach PFI courses out of North Carolina, and they also travel and do stuff in the Caribbean. Very cool. Very cool guys. They do excellent courses. You should definitely check them out. So the guy in this video has been in spearfishing for 30 years and admits he mostly dives by himself, right? So when they went out with Ren and Ashley, they were diving about, and he was, I think he was freediving up to 80 feet, right? So here they're at 50 feet, which is his normal operating depth. He did 7 dives before this one, right? And then this is what happens. Oh, let me make this go up. All right, so let's see. All right, he's heading up to the surface. Kicks look okay. Right about now, I notice his kicks look maybe not so okay. Release of air, sinks down to the bottom. Okay, so let's watch this again. All right, so he's heading up to the surface. His kick is getting really weak, really weak. He's barely propelling himself at all. That right there, that release of air, that's the sign of a blackout. When they black out, the first things you do is you're going to do a relaxed exhalation, right? And then now you can see he's sinking down to the bottom of the ocean. And you can see that guy, the spear gun up there? I mean, he's like right near the surface. He's like, 10 feet from the surface, okay? Now, one thing I want to ask you guys when you watch this is show me where the point is where he asks for help. Yeah, I didn't see any point he asked for help, right? So what does that mean? He had no idea anything was wrong, right? He had no idea. He just going doop 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 doop, right? So they get on the boat. Now the guy's fine because Ren is an instructor, right? He knows what to do. He knows what to look for, and took care of the guy. And the guy was fine because, in fact, it is quite simple to deal with. If you have the training and know what to do. So he closed his airway, took him up, the guy was fine. And then the guy's sitting on the boat. And he's kind of like, oh crap, right? So if you really look into this, it's really crazy what happened, right? So this guy's 30 years of experience, right? So first thing you got to do is we got to put a number. How many individual drops has someone with 30 years of freediving spearfishing experience made? Well, I do 60 dives just in one ocean session, right? There's times when I'll do 60 dives in just one session, right? So we have to put a number on it, right? And I don't think it's unreasonable to say he's done, 10,000 drops, right? 10,000 individual dives over his 30-year career. So this guy will tell you that, he's never had a problem. He's always dived by himself. He's in tune with his body, doesn't push his limits, this, that, and the other, right? So he's had one hypoxic issue out of 10,000 dives. So if that dive had happened on any 999,999 other dives, he'd be dead, right? Because he dives by himself, right? No one watched him. No one's at the surface, doesn't know what he's doing, right? So the fact that the one time that guy had a problem, the one out of 10,000 dives that had a dive that went wrong, the fact that intersected with the only time he's ever had someone watching him, the fact that those two things intersected is the only reason that guy is alive, right? So he became a little bit more supportive of freediving education and diving in teams after this incident, right? But unfortunately, that situation is what we fight against, right? I mean, so instructors like me come around and say, you guys got to be safe. And they say, but I don't push myself and I've never had a problem, Ted. I've never had a problem. And I say, yeah, but you're not being safe. And they're like, oh my gosh, Ted, can you not listen to the words coming out of my mouth? I've never had a problem. I've been doing this for 30 years, right? And so, but just because you've never had a problem doesn't mean you're safe, right? You could die for another 20 years and never have an issue. But here's the question I have for you. If that happened on your last dive, right? On your last time you went freediving, if you blacked out 10 feet from the surface, right? Can you say with 100% authority and confirmation that you'd be fine? I know I would be fine, right? Because I always dive in teams with someone that knows what to do, right? But unfortunately, many people just do this. They go, yeah, but I won't have a problem, right? And that's not a really good safety system, right? You're hoping that you don't have a problem, right? The other analogy I always like to use is it's like, skydiving. I mean, I don't know, I know very little about skydiving, right? But I know that, like, if you've been skydiving for 10 years and you've never had a problem, you don't just say, you know what? I am so tired of packing that reserve parachute. It is such a pain in the butt to stuff it in there. I'm just not gonna do it because I am so good at skydiving. I'm like master skydiver now. I'm not gonna pack my reserve parachute. You know why they don't do that? Because they don't want to go splat, right? So that's why they don't do that, right? So my recommendation is, when you're out there, you want to be diving in teams. You want to be diving with someone that you trust, that knows what to do, right? Knows how to rescue, knows what a blackout looks like, right? So the best thing you can do is go take a formal freediving course, right? Any formal freediving course is going to give you those sort of skills, right? If you don't have access to a freediving course, you live somewhere where they don't have it, or you don't have the time, the money, whatever, at a minimum, go to freedivingsafety.com and then learn about this, in depth with what's going on, and most importantly, what to do if someone has a loss of motor control or a blackout. All right, so if any of you guys have any questions, put those in the comments, and if not, I'm gonna probably wrap this thing up. So, got one question about the ears. I'll go over in just a second. My absolute, I launched this course a couple months ago, and it is going so well. It's my favorite course and the students' favorite course to go through it, right? So this is a course that I always explain it as this, right? If you're a free diver, right? If you're a spear fisherman, whatever it is you do underwater, right? I always ask the same question. Would you like to be able to dive deeper? Yeah, of course, Ted. Would you like to have more time down there on the bottom? Yeah, well, of course, Ted. Would you like to be able to feel more comfortable and confident when you are at depth? Yes, of course, Ted, right? Of course, you would want all those things, right? So then when I ask the average freediver, what are you currently doing to achieve those results? The answer that I almost always get is, well, I go freediving whenever I can. Okay. Yeah, that's not training. That is not training. You look at any sport, right, where people are serious about, any athlete serious about the sport, they do specific and targeted training. Like just going freediving and hoping you get better. I mean, there is a point to that where if you go freediving, you will improve, but that's not specific and targeted training, right? So the one group of freedivers that truly understands how to get better is competitive freedivers. We dive crazy deep, right? My deepest dive is 279 feet. My longest breath hold is 7 minutes, right? The only reason I can do those things is not because I'm some elite athlete, right? It's because I do specific targeted training, right? That's the only reason I can do that, right? I always try to explain that whatever you're doing underwater, you should emulate things that the competitive freedivers do if you have interest in diving deeper, staying down longer, and being more relaxed and comfortable with depth. That's what we do, right? And the reason we get that is we do very specific training. So the 28-day freediving transformation program is a series of it's a program for 28 days. You can, once you purchase the program, you can access the videos whenever you want. I'm going to give you 5 specific workouts to do, right? So 3 of them, you're going to do 3 of them are going to be breath holding exercises, right? 2 of them you're not going to like, right? They're hard. One of them, which I designed, which I really like, and I've had a lot of students say it's their favorite part of the program. One of them is designed, in fact, to be easy. So you get one easy one. And the reason I designed it that way is it's specifically designed to teach you to minimize and delay your contractions. Right, so that's 3 breath holds a week. It's going to take you about 30-45 minutes to go through those for each day that you do those. And then 2 days a week, you just got to give me 5 minutes of stretching. Right, so 5 minutes of stretching. So overall, it's about 2 hours a week. Right, and I'm going to give you specific instructions. On day 1, do this. Day 2, do this. Day 3, take off. Right, I'm going to give you a calendar, right, where you can write all your results down. I always say put that by the refrigerator. Right, that way, anytime you go in there to grab a bonbon or a beer, you're supposed to remember that you got work to do. Right, and then you're going to stack that together for 4 weeks. Right, if you do that together for 4 weeks, 28 days, that is going to radically transform your physiology and make it better suited to freediving by strengthening your mammalian dive reflex. Right, the other thing you get access to when you sign up for the course is you get access to a private Facebook group where the students can talk to each other. I encourage them to put their workouts on every day, so they'll put, day 1 I did this, day 2 I did this, so everyone can see what they're doing, and then my favorite part of the day is I go out in the morning and I go outside, have my coffee, bring my computer out, and I go through and answer everyone's questions. So it's a great way to answer where I can answer folks' questions. You also get included the Breath Hold Secrets program that I talked about earlier, and then you also get access to Noob Spiro's 99 Spearfishing Tips. It's an ebook that if you're a spearfisherman is super, super helpful. So the program is $149. It's $149. You get access to it forever. And then I will put the link to that when I'm done with the presentation. So someone asked a question, loss of motor control, is that also called a SAMBA? Yeah, so a loss of motor control or a SAMBA is it's a hypoxic issue. Blackout is a hypoxic issue. SAMBA is a lesser hypoxic issue, right? Think of it as like a major issue is a blackout, right, where they actually lose consciousness and go out. And then a SAMBA, loss of motor control, they don't have a blackout, but you're going to see they're going to be shaking a little bit, right? They're going to have a little bit of trouble breathing, and they're going to have, there's a reason we call it loss of motor control, because they lose their motor control. So that is the difference between a loss of motor control and a blackout, and yes, it is often referred to as a SAMBA. So let me see. Okay, so someone said I have a problem with ear pressure. That is a very vague question, so I'm not really sure what to do with that question. What I will tell you is if you're a free diver, it is very common that free divers struggle to equalize their ears in the 15 to 30 foot range, right? And if that is you, Dwayne, the other thing that you would notice if you have this particular problem is you would struggle to equalize your ears in the 15 to 30 foot range when you're head down. But you notice as soon as you turn head up, it's like super easy to clear, then you for sure have this issue. Right? So there's 2 main methods of equalization for free diving. Most people use either Valsalva or Frenzal. If you're using Valsalva, you are always going to have trouble as a free diver. You're always going to struggle to equalize in that 15 to 30 foot range. Right? So a simple test that can teach you if you're equalizing the right way is put your hand on your stomach, pinch your nose, and equalize 5 times. If you feel your stomach clenching every time, that means you're doing Valsalva, right? So watch my stomach, right? So I'm going to stand up, watch this. I'm going to do 5 equalizations. Notice that my stomach didn't move, right? Watch my nose. Watch my throat. Right? That's doing Frenzal, which is the one you got to be doing. Now, if when you do this test, you feel your stomach compressing, right? So if I do Valsalva, you're going to see my stomach goes like this. Right? That compression, that means that's my stomach and my lungs get my chest compressing to push the air from my lungs up into my ears. It's like that, right? While that seems like it generates a powerful equalization, it absolutely doesn't. It's infinitely weaker than Frenzel. Frenzel takes the air that's in our mouth, shoves it into the lungs. Valsalva takes the air that's in our lungs and tries to shove it into our ears. But we want to use the air that's in our mouth and shove it into our ears, okay? So if that's you, if you feel like, yes, Ted, that's what I'm doing. Yes, I feel it in my stomach. And yes, I get stuck at 15, 30 foot, right? I have an online course, Make Your Equalizing Problems a Thing of the Past, that will teach you how to switch from Valsalva to Frenzel. I've taught over 500 people on one-on-one Skype sessions on how to do that starting in about 2012. After doing 500 of those, where I spent between 500 and 1,000 hours, they take me about an hour to 2 hours, I realized there's got to be a more time-efficient way to do this, so then I created that course, the equalizing program. And so what's great about it is, instead of just watching a video, right, it's broken up into specific steps. So the idea is at the end of each, there's actually 13 different videos. At the end of each video, it's going to tell you, all right, so I want you to do this particular task. And if you can do the task, that's awesome. I want you to watch video number 2. If you can't do the task, don't worry. I know exactly why you have that problem. I've seen that literally hundreds of times, and I want you to watch video number 3. Right? And video number 3 is going to address that particular problem. So that's the way the whole system works. You get navigated through the videos based on whatever problems you are or not having. Because if you're not having a specific problem, why do you need to see me run my mouth for 20 minutes about it? Right? So you're only going to get the information that you need, and you kind of zigzag through the program. So it's a very cool program. I've actually started, I'm actually opening it up to instructors. So I sell it to instructors at a discounted rate, those that are going to be using it for their students, and they love it. Right? Because it's really frustrating as a freediving instructor to have students stuck at 15 feet because they can't Frenzel, and it takes a lot of time and effort to do this. And this is one of the best ways that you can handle that is by I have all my students go through all of that stuff before they get to class, right? Because I want my students walking the door learning how to Frenzel already. Tommy, it's going to be very hard to diagnose it like this, but number one, I would ask you, do your ears equalize fine normally, right? Like, do your ears equalize fine on dry land? Secondly, do your ears equalize when you're in the water, head up? And then do your ears equalize when you're upside down, right? And so until I know those questions, it's hard for me to... another thing, this is, some people, when you say clog, it's so hard for me to know what that means. Some people get irritated. They tell me, Ted, when I get in the water, the water rushes in my ear. And, and I'm like, yeah, because your ear is a hole, right? I mean, there's a hole in your ear. When this thing goes underwater, water's going to go in there, right? Unless for some reason there's a hole in your eardrum and water's going in your ear, which is probably not happening. Sometimes it's just people get in the water, they're not used to having water in the ear. And so that sometimes leads to issues. So Tommy, it's going to be too slow to do all this. Just send me if you send me a Facebook message, I can try to better assist you. But with the delay on this, it's going to take forever because whatever you tell me, I'm going to ask you a bunch more questions, and then we're going to have to sit here and wait. So I'm not going to do that. So I will be back to Freedive Live. Will be back tomorrow. Be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just like today. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, the single best thing you can do to support the show is share the show with your buddies. And hitting the share button like on Facebook is nice, but if you learn something from the show, the single best thing you can do is not only hit the share button. When you hit the share button, of just a picture of me goes zoom on the Facebook feed, right? And the people go like, who the hell is that guy running his mouth about freediving, right? But if you take the time to put, hey, you should check out this show, I learned something from it, he's educational, whatever you want to say about it, your friends don't know me, but they know you. And if you take the time to say, you should check this guy out, that's actually going to make people watch things. This is the way it works nowadays, right? But yeah, so I hope to see you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Once I shut this thing down, give me 5-10 minutes. I'm going to put the links in there to the equalizing program, the free. I'll get the free program to take the 20 to 30% bigger breath. I'll leave a link to the Breath Hold Secrets. the 28-day transformation program, which is awesome. And then I'll also put the equalizing program. Some people had to ask questions about that. All right, so see you next week.